everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bobble Pod. On this episode, we're going to talk about the real, raw, and relatable in regards to social media. And we have a special guest, someone who has worked for Bobble, someone who actually does all the social media behind the Mr. Bobble brand, which reminds me, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe the podcast, and follow me on Mr. Bobble Official on Instagram and TikTok. And I'd like to welcome Darcey.
Yes, hello.
Darcey Cunningham. So, Darcey, introduce yourself for our listeners. Who you are, what you do.
So, my name is Darcey. I am the founder of a creative marketing agency called In-House Collective. It's a social first brand and based in Leeds.
See, I just create entrepreneurs, people I hire, just becoming entrepreneurs.
Word on the street is I was Manni's apprentice.
Yes, actually, you was. You was. I was never intending to hire Darcey. She just sent an email, somehow got my email, don't even know how. And that was the first question I asked her, was like, how did you get this email? And then she sent a really good covering letter, said, I want to work for Bobble, and I want an apprenticeship at Bobble. Fired her in, I was really impressed and said, yeah, you can be an apprentice. And then we actually went through the full government apprenticeship program. But you found that one more tedious because you were learning more from us than you were.
I was learning more from you, but yeah, I just think you're responsible for me being here today. So.
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
But, just remember me when you give your speech in the future when you're in on Forbes.
Absolutely. I've learned from the best.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So we're here to talk about the real, raw, and relatable. And you've been doing some really great work in social media. You obviously manage our social media for Mr. Bobble. So it makes sense that if we're going to talk about social media, we bring in the person who does it for us. And I think it's a good platform for you to talk about what's going on. So, James.
Hello.
How you doing?
All right. Thank you. Nice of you to ask.
Of course.
And use me by my actual name, which is lovely. It's the nicest.
Name one time I've got your name wrong.
Every week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you were Jamie last week.
Yeah, it's
I did a podcast recording earlier this week where someone called me Steve all the way through, and I didn't have the heart to tell them. So I was just, all right, I'll be Steve for this. It's fine. I'm easy like that. Real, raw, relatable. What do we mean by that then?
So it is the era of being real, raw and relatable, especially on social platforms across the board. Personally, I think that obviously social media has developed so much, but I do think it's sort of in its baby years still, and we're now at the stage where people don't want to see polished content anymore. They want to see the ongoings of brands and kind of the nitty gritty, what makes a brand work.
So let's break it down. We're talking about real, raw, relatable. So when we're talking about real, I'd say one example I can give is I just literally was at a showcase in Twickenham and was like, you know what, it's the 19th of March. 19th of March was a very important date to me because it was the day I had a kidney transplant in 2020 and I was marking 5 years. And I literally just created a post, whacked it on TikTok, and then it had 20,000 views and hundreds of comments later of people saying, oh, that's amazing, well done for even remembering and thanking your donor. And that was something that was like, just real, just like a real response. I thought that would fall under that kind of like category of like being authentic and real in terms of who I am. This is, today, and this is what I'm thinking about, and this is what's going on in my head as an entrepreneur. What would you class real as?
It's exactly that. Like I say to so many people, all you have to do is literally just hold up your phone and speak to your camera and just talk about how you're feeling. I feel like especially the audience on TikTok and like Gen Z, they can immediately tell if something's not real and if it's forced.
Yeah.
So I think that is the key, and all of your best performing content is behind the scenes and it is when you're just talking from the heart. This
is one thing I give Gen Z credit about though on social media and in terms of how they work is they just don't want to put up with BS.
Yeah.
I think that's the only elements. They've seen historical generations work hard, and I don't blame them. It's like if you've seen something historically, it's like I don't want that. I look at my parents like I don't want to have to go through what my parents went through. Does that make sense? To kind of get us to that stage, but I know what it's going to take to get to the next stage in terms of generational living. But I get their viewpoint. They're like, well, no, there's more to life than work, which I totally respect, but I always say you've got to create a position within that's where I have differences with Gen Z in terms of like work ethic more than anything else. Is I think like they can get distracted by social media and elements, and there's an issue with doom scrolling on TikTok and Instagram, and life is being taken over by social media. But Gen Z can see the BS in people, and they will support those people more that are authentic and real.
Yeah, I think as well though, Gen Z definitely see. So I know when I'm scrolling through my For You page, it's filled with successful people who have such a good work-life balance, who sort of make money online so easily. And they're like, oh, I did this digital product and I've made 6 figures from it. And I
now
also
sign up to my course for 500 quid and I'll show you how I did it.
Yeah, I also think on the flip side, and I do find myself kind of trapped in this sometimes, is that Gen Z are also very easy to be sold a dream. And the case is that the grass isn't always greener. Like, yes, it is. People do find success in these things, but I think as well, Gen Z, they don't really want to put the work in most of the time. And
yeah, I feel like a lot of them get bought into I used to call it the get rich quick schemes generally, but it's almost like get wealth quick or get maybe it's getting financial freedom quicker, but unfortunately that doesn't happen. You've got to allow for other things to do. So that's kind of like real. What about raw? Give me an example of what you would class as raw.
So I think a trend in the fashion industry, especially recently, is people going to the suppliers in China. And this is something that we're seeing more and more. So recently, there's been a lot of like greenwashing, and I feel like people are more eco-conscious, but I think the brands that are actually showing going to China with the suppliers, something that is a little bit taboo, and they're saying actually this is okay. That is an example of being raw and kind of communicating with your audience that it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like, you've just got to do stuff to get stuff done.
I have a problem with brands on social media in terms of they're all trying to fit in. I don't. I'm like, I really don't care about specific. I always say that Bobble social media should all be pushing about the company's culture, values, and what we do as a company. I give it to Molly to kind of manage our company socials, but the only guidelines I set is I don't care what's going on in terms of political or social movements. It's got nothing to do with Bobble Digital. It's got nothing to do with the job. If it's got to do something with the job or it's something to do with the client, it's different. I was like, it's got nothing to do with us. So we stay away from like promoting anything. Yes, we push out like Easter and all the main holidays because our clients come from various different faiths and backgrounds, and we support that. And obviously we're a UK British company, so we'll support all British holidays. But outside of that, any kind of like social or political movements, we don't post about it. I ban it. I don't even allow that level of conversation in the company. What's that got to do with it? It just creates division and deform. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. So if you do it, people are going to be for it or against it and have a viewpoint and a difference. So that's where I kind of like draw the line on stuff like where it's raw. And I think companies make that mistake. It's like, honestly, personally, and everyone's different, is like when I go to a company, if I look at a company that wants to work with us or want to sell to us or I want to work with, I'm like, are they similar to us, or are they just ticking the box for everyone to be showing that we're ticking the box? Because realistically, those companies say they're doing that stuff, most of them, half of them, they really don't care. They're just doing it to look good. So it's, again, fake elements to it. So
it is so difficult it is so easy to get wrong.
So, question on what you just said, Manni. Because you said this a couple of times before about, like, you know, keeping out of political things and stuff like that. But so when there was all the talk about the budget and national insurance going up and possibly change to capital gains tax and other stuff, you had a fair bit to say about that.
Yeah, because that impacts
it was
business
obviously
operation.
on your mind.
Yeah, it was on my mind.
You were a bit stressed out about what direction.
None of that went on
business
Bobble Digital's company social pages. It was about the podcast, which talks about digital marketing, advertising, and business.
Okay.
And my political, I did have a lot to say about it because I was concerned for some of my smaller clients. I was concerned for some of my business friends. And it was almost like you don't understand the impact this is having. So economy drives business performance. So there is a conversation from a business element to have that discussion and say, look, this is where we are. But it's not political in the sense of like a political movement or what I mean by that is like what's going on in Palestine, Ukraine, let's say LGBTQ issues, anything around mental health, black history awareness. I want to stay away from that because that is where you're walking on hot coal. Because you could say one thing wrong, or it could come across differently. And we talked about this, we talked about the cause. That's why I did going woke means going broke. And I just totally say we focus on it. But again, that had nothing to do with me. That's me talking as a business CEO and talking about the challenges as a CEO and a business owner and sharing them. And as much as general people that work 9 to 5, came out and started getting, for whatever reason, abusive, I don't care, because your opinion doesn't matter to me, because like I said, you're a 9 to 5 worker. But I had a lot of business owners, CEOs come up to me face to face at networking events and say, you know what, I appreciate you saying that. The fact that you had courage to say that. So many people actually, I can even pull up as many, direct messages, but I'm going to protect the people that do. But my WhatsApp messages, I get messages on LinkedIn directly. It's like, I love the content. I'm glad you're actually sharing this kind of stuff. But I'm thinking in the back of my head, why are you scared to say it?
Yeah, and I think that is the key.
Because that is raw.
Yeah, it is raw, and I think that is the key. Like, if you're a business owner, be raw about your business. Don't get opinions involved, but when you do have a personal brand, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
And again, something that you touch on a lot is freedom of speech. So this is why the Mr. Bobble brand exists, but I'm not going to touch Bobble Digital with that.
Yeah, I separated it out from my company. What Bobble does and how it operates works in a completely different way. Who I am, and Mr. Bobble as a brand, as people call me an expert in digital marketing. I've never called myself that. Yes, I have more experience than most. And people come in and be like, right, he clearly knows what he's talking about. But that's just my experience and knowledge over the industries and years. But I share that and I talk about different things. You've got to be able to be relevant as well to elements. And I think this moves on to it. I think that borderline's raw and relatable because I'm relating to other CEOs and owners and business owners, but they're the ones that I'm talking to when I'm networking, and they're the businesses I end up talking to. So if you consider like I'm in a networking room of, let's say, 120 business owners, and 20, well, not 20, but let's say 5 people come up to me and said, saw your podcast about that, and I totally agree with you. Since that podcast, I've had at least 15, 20 people ask me about Dubai and setting up in Dubai. Come up to me in business events and elements right now. I'm constantly having conversations about people talking about that. So it kind of shows that it was relatable. So I was raw about it. Yep. I talked about, comparing the economy to Dubai. But so many people then came up to me about it and said, you're in Dubai. How did you set up out there? Because it was on their mind. They didn't say it. They heard me say it and then found it relatable. I was like, I was literally saying what every other business owner was thinking.
Yeah, and I think that is the key to being relatable, because I think people think that CEOs and business owners are these like picture perfect, polished people. And I feel like when it comes to social media or even advertising on social media, people don't buy things, they buy into people. And that is why being relatable is so important, because a lot of CEOs and business owners seem so out of touch, but as soon as they say something that an average everyday person can relate to, that's when they're like, oh, yeah.
But where's the line?
Yeah, but consider that. I'm not trying to relate to everyday employees. I'm trying to relate to decision makers, directors, owners, because that's who I'm talking to on a regular basis. That's my network. My network isn't, I'm going to go chill out with someone I used to work with. No, I'm going to go chill out with and play paddle with so-and-so because he's the owner of a legal firm. Does that make sense? And we're business friends. So your circle changes depending on where you are in your career journey. So I try to relate to other business owners because people buy into people. And if they say, like, actually, he understands where the economy is right now, he understands how it's going to impact my business. So with that kind of economical mindset, with his digital marketing agency and experience, they're better equipped and knowledgeable, potentially, to drive things forward.
I think what I'm sort of pushing, and I guess I'm just trying to figure out where you see that line being, because in some ways what you're saying, Manni, is a little bit about you kind of self-editing. You're censoring a little bit in terms of actually, be raw and relatable, but don't touch on this and don't touch on that and don't touch on the other, and your business shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that, shouldn't do the other. But surely if we're saying actually being real, raw, relatable should be that nothing's off limits. So where's that line? Well,
that's where I've tried to separate it with the Mr. Bobble brand to Bobble Digital. Bobble Digital is a company.
So are we saying it's a bit different for a personal brand than for a business?
Yeah, it is, because I think from a business perspective, I don't touch any of it because I want to eventually, hopefully, potentially sell that business one day or have a management buyout. So I need to protect that business brand. Now, if someone's going to say, yeah, but you're using the name Mr. Bobble. Bobble is my nickname. It's people don't realize that. It's like my friends call me Bobble. Bobble Digital can be rebranded to anything else. Does that make sense? In the future, it can be. That name
Whereas
is
you are
tangible.
you,
Whereas I am me, and that Bobble brand will stick with me for a long period. But you have to distinguish lines between company and personal, etc. Which is why I tell staff that if they have a personal opinion, separate it from the company.
Yeah.
Which
is really good advice.
Which is like, I don't care what you put on your social media, but if you're putting something on LinkedIn that's very political and socially elements, and it says you work for Bobble Digital, and it gets heat, you're going to be in trouble.
Anything involving opinions has so much potential for things to go wrong when it comes to social media.
But I don't mind it if it's coming from the Mr. Bobble brand, because it's me. I'm talking as the CEO.
And you take that heat if you get it.
But I'm not just the CEO of Bobble. I'm the CEO of Bobble Properties. I'm the CEO of Bobble Insights, and I'm the owner of Bobble Investment Group. So, and I'm a director of another company. So it's not just at that level, it's more.
It does have a flip side as well, because I think things that are a little bit more controversial always do better on social media. But that being said, you do have to be real, raw and relatable, but still keep it, like, let's say PG. Well,
this was going to be my next question, and I was going to ask you first, Darcey, and then ask Manni to come in on it. So presumably there's a point where a business can be too real and too raw, and things go too far. So what do you think is beyond the point of being okay?
People don't get backlash on the business. I feel like they always get backlash on the person who is, say, in front of the camera. That's what I'd say. And cancelling culture is huge, especially on TikTok. And we always joke about Manni always going to get cancelled one day, which he probably is.
I tried to get cancelled to get famous.
Exactly.
Well, I'm going to say, Elon Musk has not got to where he has by keeping his head down, has he?
And that is so true. Like, I always say all engagement is good engagement. If you're getting people talking, it's great, and it will always push your content further. But I suppose it kind of comes down to like individual circumstances where that goes wrong. There's a really good example of it going on at the minute, which is a famous influencer called Anna Paul, and her personal brand was huge, and she's built a skincare brand off this. But she's let her personal life interfere, and she's been cancelled basically because of some personal choices that she's made, and her whole brand has. She will never recover from that. I'm sure people who are listening will know. So I do think it's really important just to...
I disagree with the word cancel. I mean, who are people to cancel?
Yeah.
Like, who are you?
It's
like, no. It's like, no, it is. I really disagree with it.
One of those things that horrible people
and
have
I think how
why
pathetic and miserable must your life be if you think the only joy and excitement you can get is through the misery of someone else. Now, I agree to an extent where someone's gone out and said something racial, hatred, specifically towards it. Like you can say, it's like if someone's come out and, been very, very against something and like you can say, no, that is wrong. Like the Kanye West video we did in terms of elements, like, God, that is crossing a clear line. There's moral, ethical lines that you cross. Then yes, that's where, you as the public, hold people accountable for. But there's hypocrisy because the same people that cancel certain people will, kiss other celebrities and influencers' asses that, no one has a clean background. No one's perfect. Maybe Mr. Beast, I don't know. I think he's one of the clear best examples of an influencer, someone who's built a multi-billion pound brand out there that even people try to cancel him. People have issues with him when he went out and tried to help people regain sight. And and going out and building homes, and you've got to see some of the comments on his videos. People are just miserable. So people that do cancel, I don't care. Hate me in the comments, I don't really care. Your opinion doesn't matter to me. It's like I don't wake up thinking, "Ooh, what someone put on my TikTok."
You really want it to happen.
I really want.
You're really up for it.
What's going to happen?
You just really want you want the argument. You want the fight.
No, but literally. But bring it on. Honestly, what are you going to do? Nothing. Cancel culture is absolute.
Catch me?
Yeah, what are you going to do? I mean, I've got 3,000 followers on on TikTok. I do this just to help educate and give more of a talk about business, advertising, and digital marketing in multiple senses, to get good quality guests on, to give, talk about elements, and we're talking about real, raw, relatable. So we're getting real, raw, relatable on this podcast, as you can tell. It wasn't really the example, but I just disagree with this whole thing about cancel. It's like, who, like I said, it's your life must be so bad and miserable. And if anything, I pity them.
Yeah,
I pity them for more than anything else. So people can say what they want to me. I've had 2 near-death experiences in my life from health and medical conditions. I live life to the fullest. Someone's opinion of me doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a client and they don't like me, fine, go work with somebody else. There'll be another client that does want to work with me. If you're an employee and you don't like me and want to leave, fine, go leave. Someone else will want to come work with me. You don't want to be my friend, fine. 8 billion people in the world, I'm sure I can find another friend. You know what I mean?
Well, I like you anyway.
Oh, thanks, mate. I like you too. I like you too, Darcey. Obviously, it's been great. But the minute you
we're all friends.
The minute you let other people's opinions define who you are,
yeah,
it's just then you're basically a clown on a performance to others. I don't care.
And I think when you are going to accept that in order to do well in today's social space, you do have to tell your story. And I think if you're willing to tell your story and you're willing to let people into the ins and outs of your business and also your life and what comes with that, you do have to be prepared to get some backlash.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Otherwise, it's a boring story, isn't
exactly.
it? If no one's got something to say, what's the old saying? It's better to be talked about than not be talked. Or the only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about, or whatever that saying is. And that's been around for decades, and it's still true in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I'm glad we had a nice moment where we all said that we were friends a minute ago, because I've got a question that might piss you off a little bit. We've gone completely off plan in terms of what we've talked about, which I think for an episode that's talking about being real and raw and whatever, I think is right. So is there not a massive kind of oxymoron in terms of the fact that we're even having this conversation? We're talking about social media should be real and raw. The fact we're talking about it means we're talking about a strategy, a plan to make your social media real and raw. By pure definition, therefore, it's not being real and raw because it's planned. Is there not a big contradiction to this whole sort of thing? Is there not a point that it goes too far and people who are really trying to be real and raw end up actually being pretty fake as a result of trying to do it?
Yeah.
I was going to say there's different ways you can be real, raw, relatable as well. So there's a few trends going out right now which are kind of really relatable. I don't know if you've seen the one with basically the Wolf of Wall Street version of B2B sales.
No, I haven't seen
That's hilarious. Right, so basically, if you see anyone seen Wolf of Wall Street, and he does that bit. So it's 2 salespeople, marketing and salespeople, basically going, and he calls up to the guy. He goes, what we want to do is I want you to bring me a cappuccino, and then every 15 minutes I want you to bring me another one, then 15 minutes after that, which is funny because in the film he's like, bring me a martini or cocktail, whatever it is, and another one, and we're going to go all night. And then he talks about B2B sales. He goes, it's just money at the end of the day. He goes, look, B2B sales, nobody can tell you what happens after that lead lands. He goes, CRM, sales, doesn't matter. It's all a fugazi, which is what happens in the film. And it's hilarious because it's relatable, because it is funny because it's just a funnel. It's just a process. They're just numbers on the screen, which is what he says in the film. And I feel that's actually quite funny because literally it's relatable from a marketing perspective, because you see that it's funny, great content, but it's relatable and it's real because it's like they're using a concept to talk about something different as part of that.
Yeah, I think another thing that ruins it for me as well, where you see somebody's obviously really worked on the strategy and maybe they're a business owner and one of their Gen Z, usually employees, has turned around and said, right, we want to get you in front of the camera, we want to do day in the lives, we want to do voiceovers, and all of the content seems really real, raw and relatable. And then you scroll down and look at the caption and it's very obviously been written in ChatGPT, and that just ruins the whole thing for me.
This was going to be my next question. in this is probably the longest we've gone through a podcast episode without the word AI coming up.
Yeah.
Where does that fit in? And is that like a threat to being real and raw?
Yeah, so I've actually thought about this a lot before I came on here, because we know how much Manni loves AI.
Oh, we're gonna have an argument here.
Do you know what? I love it. I love ChatGPT, but so many people are using it, and obviously it's they have a free version, so everybody's just ChatGPT everything, and it's a tool, but how you use it matters. If it helps you brainstorm or streamline your process, great, but if it strips away your originality, there is no point, because there's only so many ideas that it can come up with, and you're just going to blend into everybody else. And I think that is so important to remember. Like, yeah, use AI to give you some ideas for your strategy, but don't use AI-generated content, especially not on ads, because nobody's going to buy your brand. Yeah. And especially, well, use it for your captions, but don't just take what it gives you, tweak it. Yeah. As soon as I see a full stop and then an emoji next, people will know what I mean if they've used ChatGPT for the captions, or even like a dash now. I'm like, yeah, that is ChatGPT.
US language.
Yeah.
From a UK account, it's like you're using ChatGPT
because
you didn't remove the Z and put an S.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, and it's so true, and people really need to be careful of that, especially in ads and captions, because it just takes away the whole point.
Yeah. What I'm kind of taking from this is it's actually a really delicate balance, isn't it, to get this right? And there's a lot of things to consider in this.
I don't know what you think, but I don't think there's a right solution. I'll put out a piece of content and I'll do really well, and I didn't expect it to. And I'd be like, I never expected that. I was just posting that because I posted it for me. Yeah. And it did quite well. I think the one was where I come out of a Doctor Who phone box, and I say it in an Indian accent, does everybody need a doctor? And everyone started tagging and made trying saying he should be the next Doctor. Oh, I'm so ready for a new Doctor. I was like, I didn't expect this to go viral, but it did go viral. It was quite funny. Still to this day, I still get likes and comments on that video.
Well, that's an example of being real, because that's you.
That was just my general sense of humour, and I didn't know they were. I did not know they were recording me, and I just came out and did it just genuinely as like a banter, and obviously it just did good. But that's on my personal page. But again, same with the talking about my kidney transplant. I had been 5 years on, and where I am and how well I'm doing, etc. Stuff like that. So I think you can implement a good strategy and get followers and likes, and you should have a strategy for social media. We have a strategy, we talk about it, we always create clips, but some of the small clips we're focused now on is talking about the Burger King stuff we've talked about, Valentine's specific campaigns, because it is a digital marketing advertising social media page, it's a brand. So we want to talk more about that than anything else. I'd rather 80% of the content be more about digital marketing and advertising, and 20% be more on wider topics, reactive topics, because that's what I want the content to do.
Yeah.
Really.
And I think as well, when you stop focusing on your content going viral, let's say, that is always when it does go viral, and it's almost like because people can sense that this is just what happens, this is just what goes on, and they know it's real. Like one of my clients, just on a whim, I filmed them cutting a ring off somebody, and it's literally like a 20-second clip. It got 60 million views and featured on Lad Bible. And it was not something that we planned, it was just something that we took a video of, and they've had like 10,000 followers, and it's like, you can't plan that, and people know that. Should we cut
this one off mine and see if it does the same thing?
Yeah.
No, but this is what I mean. It's like there's no right way to do it. I mean, I don't pretend to talk about being a social media expert. I've been in the social media game for a while. I've seen really good campaigns which I've understood the strategy behind. But yeah, when you look at the most successful social media campaigns, most of them are off a whim.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually have a question for you about that.
Okay.
So I feel like nowadays audiences are becoming a lot more sceptical of traditional ads. Obviously, you are the paid ad specialist. What do you think the future of paid media looks like in a world that demands realness?
I don't think you'll be able to give realness in the future. I think that level of entity will reduce because of artificial intelligence. I said this yesterday. I said in in 5 years' time, Google Ads will be so integrated with its Gemini product that you'll give voice commands to set up ad groups and campaigns, and you'll just tell it what to build out. And when that's where I get to, that level of automation, and you'll basically liaise with Gemini on your Google Ads in the future than anything else. So I think the bigger brands will try and keep it real. I think when you look at brands like Red Bull, they always keep it fresh what they're doing. I think they'll lead the way. I think the bigger brands with the budget will be able to keep it real. I think the smaller brands will struggle, unless they integrate their personal and business brand together. So let's say it's like a individual like shop owner or jewelry expert or a hair salon beautician or something like that. It's like they can then like talk about, their kind of content. But it's a hard one because I just think technology is going to advance so much. I think there'll be a different social media platform in 5 years that we're all using. I think there'll be something new. I'd be surprised if there isn't. If you look at the trends of obviously social media platforms coming out based on technology, I think it'll be more. I think it'd be more live video focused content. I think stuff like Twitch or something like, you see a lot of people go live now on TikTok. I think people won't record and post. They'll just go live and they'll just go on the platform and just start talking and creating their content, because all the AI features and stuff will allow them to like edit in real time and do things. I think that'll be the future, and literally once they stop recording, it'll turn into a post, but it'll be more focused on live content that's going on right now and who's doing what, as opposed to pre-recorded. Potentially, I don't know.
I think as well, like people's attention spans are so short nowadays, and that's why TikTok's done so well, because you can literally just flick through. You can even now press on the side of the screen on TikTok and it'll do it in 2x speed for you. Like, how crazy is that you can't even sit and watch through a 30-second video?
People do this with podcasts as well. People listen to podcasts on like twice speed. It blows my mind. I can't. But everyone's just in a rush for everything, aren't they?
People's attention spans are so short, and I think that's why there will be another platform out very soon. But I also think as well, in order to stand out in today's social media, you have to be doing something different. You cannot be blending into what everybody else is doing. And I think this is where the creative aspect of it comes. Like, you just have to stand out, otherwise it's not going to work for you. Yeah,
trends are good, but the trends die quickly. I mean, the current trend right now is, would 100 men beat a gorilla? You've seen it, hasn't you? You're laughing at each. Well, no, 100% we wouldn't. If we got 100 men against a gorilla, we're losing that straight away. That gorilla would run through. I don't know, but it's like a debatable topic, and every influencer ever is talking about it, and they're like, no. It's like, the answer is no.
What's the thing about, would you rather fight 100 duck-sized giraffes or giraffe-sized ducks or whatever it is?
Yeah, well, obviously the smaller ones, because you can do more. But these kind of things that trend, you can jump on that bandwagon for a bit because people find it funny, and they'll want their personal, if they're following a certain influencer or brand, they want their opinion on it. Yeah. But then you're on to the next trend. So some people just follow trends and do well from that.
Doesn't build a recognisable brand.
But it doesn't. So that's why I always say, well, look at people like Mr. Beast. He's a content creator.
Yes.
He's a trendsetter. Anybody who wants a YouTube channel follows his template.
Yeah.
He went from A/B testing, doing elements, and took it to a whole different level.
And it's so familiar. People love it because every time they watch one of his videos, they know exactly what they're going to get. And that is so true. It's not about reach, it's about repeat. If you can do well off a viral trend, like, great, so is everybody else if they posted that video. But people don't want that. They want something that they know that they're going to watch again and again, and they still get the reach, but people know exactly what they're going to get, and it still does well anyway.
Yeah, look at the guy who does the signs for his business. Yeah, it's quite funny. Yeah, everyone knows that one, because then it's almost like there's a funny video, and he goes, if you need a sign for your business, and it's like, what he's going to do.
Smash it.
It's brilliant, authentic, out of the blue, reactionary kind of stuff. There's another guy who who's like, listen, did you know? And it's like almost like, and he's like, he goes, like stuff like that I will follow because I'm like, I know I'm going to get, it's authentic, it's great content. They're the kind of brands I follow.
Yeah.
But you see my algorithm, I sent you a video. So you see that I'm watching content really related to marketing and stuff. So my feed isn't just full of BS, it's full of stuff. So I always send you, so like, I want to talk about this. This is great. So I sent you a video about Liverpool winning the Premier League because I'm a Liverpool fan, but it was someone talking about the marketing element of Mo Salah grabbing the Pixel 9 Google phone and taking a selfie, and they said that is how a football team does marketing.
Yeah.
And it is, because his phone was given to someone, a photographer, the phone, they gave it to him. There's a picture of him taking the phone. Google will use that as an ad, you know. Liverpool Football Club and Mo Salah's got the most iconic picture of him scoring at, you know, the Cop End on the day they won the Premier League using a Google Pixel 9.
And it's different, and people get excited about that.
So at the time, I didn't think about it until I saw that video. I was like, oh yeah, shit, he's right. They are a huge partner, Google Pixel, for Liverpool. That was a genius marketing stunt.
Yeah, and that is the perfect example of how people buy into people. They don't buy into brands.
And if Mo Salah's, assigned with Google Pixel phone, people that follow Mo Salah will want the phone that he has.
You'll see Manni with a Google Pixel.
Never.
Next
Sorry,
time.
Google. I'm sticking to Apple.
Guys, we're out of time. What a really interesting discussion.
Yeah, I think we'll do another one of this one because there's a lot that we kind of wanted to cover off on this one. But because we went into deep dive into real, raw and relatable,
And
which
rightly
actually
so.
wasn't in the element, because I was like, I want to explain that. What is real and what is raw and what is relatable? We kind of missed out a few questions. So, Darcey, it's great to see what you're doing. It's great to see your journey. And obviously, thank you for all the support. Thank you for being on the podcast. If you need some social media support, I'd highly recommend you use Darcey. I'd say go check out In-House Collective. Go, you know, we'll get all the details tagged into the podcast, and on the social media she'll be tagged in. More often she'll probably tag herself in because she'll be the one posting it all, which is quite ironic and funny.
These clips are going to be the best clips ever.
And don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. So do follow, Darcey at In-House Collective on social media. Do follow Mr. Bobble Official, and do follow Bobble, the Bobble Pod on all streaming platforms. We've got a couple more episodes coming out, and then we're going to take a bit of a break and revise all content, etc. with the podcast. But the next topic is going to be about SEO with a great contact and colleague of mine, and I look forward to sharing that on next week's episode. Thank you for listening.